You're at the party. Or perhaps you're scrolling through the gallery of ghosts on your screen. You see her. She is articulate, successful, aesthetically curated. Yet there is a void behind her eyes that the filters cannot fill. A quiet, unspoken panic that manifests as a relentless pursuit of experience, of validation, of the next fleeting connection. She is past the age of naive romance, but before the age of settled acceptance. And she is profoundly, dangerously alone in a crowd of options. The men in her life are transient, characters in a narrative that no longer coheres. The excitement of the chase has been replaced by a ritual of diminishing returns. Each new encounter offers less, but the compulsion remains. The phone is quieter than it was. The conversations are shallower. The future, which once seemed a landscape of infinite possibility, now feels like a narrowing corridor. Why? Because she is living in direct opposition to her biological and psychological architecture. Society told her to play a man's game, using a man's rulebook, in an arena that denies the fundamental nature of the beast. And now, as the shadow of her 30s lengthens, the bill for that contradiction is coming due. The psyche is presenting its invoice. In this video, we will dissect the silent crisis of the promiscuous woman after 30. We will move beyond moralizing and past political platitudes. We will descend to the root, to the biological imperative, to the archetypes straining against the modern condition, and to the brutal, unyielding logic of evolutionary psychology that no amount of social engineering can erase. This is not about shame. This is about consequence. Let us strip away the pretense. Let us remove the layers of social construction, the talk of empowerment and autonomy, and look at the raw substrate, the human animal, Homo sapiens, female. Her evolutionary mandate is not complexity. It is brutal, elegant simplicity, the optimization of genetic legacy. This manifests through two intertwined, non-negotiable drives. The first is hypergamy. This is not a slur. It is an observable biological strategy. It is the instinct to pair with the highest value mate possible, where value is defined by resources, status, stability, and genetic fitness. This is a slow, calculating, long-term strategy. It is about investment. The second is the alpha fetus strategy. This is the counterpoint, the short-term gambit. This is the drive to secure the best possible genes from a high-status, dominant male, even if his long-term provisioning is unlikely. It is a hedge against an uncertain future. For the vast span of human history, a woman's fertility was her primary biological capital. It was a finite, precious resource. The window was short. The risks of pregnancy were mortal, and the outcome, a child, required a decade or more of intense investment. Her psychology evolved to be exquisitely sensitive to this timeline. Her subconscious, her very attraction mechanisms, are a clockwork mechanism synchronized to this reality. Therefore, her sexual strategy was necessarily dual. It required intense discrimination. It was a high-stakes vetting process to separate the provident beta from the genetically superior alpha, often seeking to secure both from the same mate. Promiscuity, in our ancestral environment, was not a strategy. It was a catastrophic risk of violence, of abandonment, of social ostracization, of raising a vulnerable child alone. The neural pathways for attachment for pair bonding evolved to secure that essential, long-term investment. Now, observe the modern woman we described. Her behavior, the serial, low-commitment encounters, is not the fulfillment of her biological imperative. It is a grotesque parody of the male strategy. The male imperative is to disperse genetic material widely, with minimal investment. Quantity over quality. For him, sex is the end goal. For her, in the deep ancestral logic of her being, sex is the beginning of a negotiation, the opening of a contract that demands 9 months of gestation and years of nurturing. When she pursues the male strategy, she is at war with herself. She is using a physiology and a psychology built for selective, long-term bonding in a context of ephemeral, disposable connection. Each encounter that does not result in the deep, secure attachment her biology is asking for is a silent, psychic injury. It reinforces a terrible subconscious conclusion. I am not worthy of securing the high-value investment my offspring would require. This is the shadow that falls across the party, that flickers in the blue light of the dating app. It is not society judging her. It is something far older and far more ruthless, her own nature, whispering that the path she is on leads not to liberation, but to a profound, Darwinian dead end. The modern condition has granted her the freedom to act against this imperative. But it has not freed her from the consequences of doing so. We arrive at the great, tragic irony of our age. The very systems built to liberate the individual have become the perfect engines for their enslavement to base instinct, severed from its fulfilling purpose. The biological machinery remains, the drive for status, for excitement, for genetic valuation. But the environment has become a funhouse mirror. Enter the digital marketplace. Dating apps do not facilitate connection. They commoditize human beings into swippable portfolios. They hyperstimulate the primal circuitry of assessment, judging a face, a snippet of a life, a potential for novelty, while completely bypassing the slower, deeper systems responsible for pair bonding. They turn the sacred, arduous process of mate selection into a game of infinite, shallow scrolling. This is not hypergamy. This is hypergrazing. The illusion of limitless choice paralyzes the will to choose. Why commit when the next, potentially better option is a thumb flick away? The imperative to secure the best mate becomes a pathological loop, preventing the securing of any mate. Then, layer upon this the cult of the personal brand. Social media transforms life into a performance. A woman is encouraged to curate an image of flawless independence, experiential wealth, and relentless self-optimization. This performance is mistaken for identity. But it is a lonely identity because it is designed for display, not for intimacy. The alpha males she is wired to seek are often themselves curated specters, men displaying the signifiers of status, the trip, the car, the aesthetic, without the underlying substance of character or the capacity for provision. She is chasing shadows in a cathedral of screens. This is where the ancient archetype meets the modern poison. The drive for the alpha fetus, the attraction to dominance, excitement, and genetic appeal is relentlessly triggered by these digital ghosts. But in the ancestral environment, this was a calculated, rare gamble with a potential payoff. In the modern trap, it becomes a default setting. The corporate world and nightlife reward the same superficial traits: aggression, confidence, glamour. She mistakes the corporate alpha or the party alpha for a viable mate, but these are context-dependent shadows. They offer the thrill, but they are structurally incapable of offering the stability her deeper biology screams for. They're specters of the gene without the substance of the provider. And so, the modern woman finds herself in a double bind of catastrophic freedom. She has been told her body is her own to use as she pleases, a canvas for experience. And this is true. But no one told her that her psyche is not her own to redesign. Her nervous system, her attachment circuitry, her emotional blueprint, these are ancient artifacts. She uses her freedom to engage in behavior that her biology interprets as a string of failures, of wasted opportunities in a closing window. Society manipulates this instinct by selling her a lie that she can have the male sexual strategy without the male psychological makeup, that she can decouple sex from consequence, intimacy from investment, and self-worth from the biological reality of time. It is a dark alchemy that turns her deepest imperative into the source of her deepest anguish. The empowerment is the cage. The freedom is the trap. She is a biological creature, armed with Stone Age emotions, trying to negotiate a space-age labyrinth where all the signs are wrong. The pain after 30 is the sound of that labyrinth collapsing in on itself. The clock her consciousness was told to ignore is a clock her cells have never stopped hearing. So here is the dark truth, the red pill that society will not offer you. The promiscuous path after 30 is not a sin, but it is a profound miscalculation, a misalignment of soul and strategy. It is the attempt to feed an eternal hunger with temporal food. The emptiness that follows is not a pathology. It is a correct signal. It is the self, the integrated psyche, reporting back that it is operating on a catastrophic error. The archetype of the lover has been reduced to a consumer. The archetype of the mother, not merely a literal mother, but the creative, nurturing, world-building principle within the feminine psyche, is starved of its purpose. And the archetype of the queen, the ruler of a stable, meaningful domain, cannot be built upon a foundation of shifting sand. What you are facing is the shadow of hypergamy, the relentless pursuit of a better option that has devoured every good option you ever had. The partner who is loyal but not thrilling, the man who is stable but not dazzling, they were sacrificed on the altar of a potential that does not exist. The shadow whispers of perfection, and in doing so, ensures you are left with nothing. Your past is not a gallery of lovers. It is a graveyard of discarded potentials. And you are left standing amongst the headstones, holding the existential bill. So, what is to be done? How does one navigate this reckoning? First, you must integrate the shadow. Stop blaming the world, the men, the patriarchy, or time itself. Have the ruthless courage to look at your own history not as a series of adventures, but as a dataset. What pattern does it reveal? What unconscious need were you truly trying to fulfill? Was it validation? Was it the avoidance of true intimacy with all its terrifying demands? Was it a rebellion against a nature you were told was a cage? Until you face this, you are doomed to repeat the loop. Then, you must adopt a stoic recalibration. A more fatty. Love your fate. The past is irrevocable. The years are spent. Do not let the specter of wasted time poison the time that remains. Your power lies not in rewriting a history you cannot change, but in acting with brutal, clear-eyed purpose in the present moment. Discern between the archetype and the man. The thrilling, chaotic alpha is a force of nature, not a foundation for a life. You must now seek the integrated male, the man who has tamed his own chaos, who possesses competence and direction, who can wield power but also offer stability. He is the bridge between the gene and the provider. He is rare. Finding him requires you to become his female counterpart, a woman who has moved beyond the girl's hunger for experience to the woman's capacity for judgment and depth. Sharpen your criteria, but change their nature. Look not for the spark of excitement, but for the glow of integrity. Seek not the perfect resume, but the resilient character. Value the man who has built a real world, however small, over the man who is merely a charming tourist in his own life. Close the digital marketplace. You are not a commodity. Step off the carousel of infinite choice. True choice is not selecting from 1,000 blurry images. It is the courageous, focused decision to build something with one other flawed human being. The party is over. The endless scroll has reached its end. It is time to build a temple or be content with the ruins. Final, poetic closing line. The garden you neglected in the season of flowers must now be tended in the autumn with different, more deliberate hands. What grows there will not be the blossom of excitement, but the deeper, more sustaining fruit of meaning. That is the trade. That is the truth. Choose.